I'm going to call the meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the month of November 2024 to order. The board members attending tonight's meeting was member Stephen Leanis, member Monique Screen-Berry, Fire Chief Brian Nardelli, member James Sweeney, and myself, Chair Kenneth Galligan. Our zoning enforcement officer and the building commissioner, clerk to the zoning board, Mr. James Plouffe. Our recording secretary tonight is Monica Fragazzo. I would ask if anybody has a cell phone, electronic device or whatever, just either put it on silent, shut it off or whatever. If you need to use the phone, I would appreciate it if you go out in the corridor. I will also notify you that this meeting is being televised. It's live on Brockton Cable TV. It will be recorded and played several times over the next month. Prior to the start of the hearing tonight, there is an opportunity for any petitioner to withdraw from the meeting without prejudice. Is there anyone tonight that wants to withdraw from the meeting?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John McCluskey, I would request withdrawal of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. That'll get me out early. The 8th petition of Vincent Falconieri, care of John McCluskey, regarding 37 Lawn Street.
Okay, the petitioner has requested a withdrawal from tonight's meeting, which will be granted. For those of you who may be here for this case, it's 2464, the petition of Vincent J. Falconieri, care of Johnny McCluskey, 1325 Belmont Street, Brockton, Mass., for a variance seeking relief from Article 3, Section 27-12 to build a single-family home on a vacant existing lot of record in a C2 zone located at 37 Lawn Street. That case will not be heard tonight.
Thank you.
Is that the only one, Councilor?
Yes.
Okay. Addition to that, we have another case that has been withdrawn prior to the meeting. It is actually postponed for next month's meeting, and that is 2461, the petition of RE LLC, 96 Moraine Street, Brockton, Mass., for a variance seeking relief from Section 27.5, 27.9 for lot size and frontage to build a residential structure on Lot B and allow to extend an existing non-conforming use of Lot A in an R1C zone located at 90 Leyden Park Road. That case has been withdrawn. It will not be heard this evening. All right, the order of operations tonight is that when the case is called, the petitioner will come up to the podium, make a presentation to the board. At the end of the presentation, if board members have any questions, that will be the opportunity for the board to question any testimony that has been given. When that has been completed, I will then open it up for any comments, questions from the general public, and I will ask first if anybody, next I will ask if anybody wants to speak in opposition. Third, I will ask if there are any elected officials in the room that want to be heard on the issue. And lastly, I'll ask if there is anyone that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given. At that point, the public portion of the presentations will be completed, and I will then open it up for board member deliberations. This is the section of the deliberation area of the meeting where all of the board members will discuss the testimony that was given, the relevance of what was said based on the zoning within the city, and at some point you will probably hear one of the board members make a motion to grant. If that is seconded, I will then ask the clerk to call the roll. In order for a petition to pass, if all 5 members vote in the affirmative, the petition will be granted. If the vote on the petition is 4 in favor, 1 in the negative, the petition will be granted. If the vote is 3 in the favor and 2 opposed, it will not be granted. So basically, the petitioner needs 4 affirmative votes in order for the petition to be granted. After the vote is taken, I will announce then the decision of the board and whether or not the petition has been granted. One, two, three. So we have 7 cases before us tonight. And the first case to be heard this evening is case number 2457. It regards a petition that was granted in 23, which was case number 2356, the petition of William Callahan of 335 Grange Park, Bridgewater, Mass, for an extension of a previously granted variance, which was case number 2356, seeking relief from Article 3, Section 27.9 for lot size and frontage to construct a single-family home in an R1C zone located at 40 Lennox Street and Plot 37 Hawley Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John McCluskey for the record. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Callahan was granted a variance for this property. I didn't bring my file with me. I think it was December of 2023. So we're getting on the year. And so the property's under agreement. Mr. Victorine is purchasing the vacant lot, which really was the subject of this board's determinations. And so we're asking for a 6-month extension. Interestingly enough, and I just forwarded it to Mr. Plouffe, today I received from a client an email that says, jobs bill extends building permits for 2 years. And apparently the legislature, and I'm just getting a better chance to read it, Permit Extension Act as Section 280, apparently approved by the legislature, is going to be on the governor's desk tomorrow morning to extend all of these permits for 2 years. So it hasn't been approved yet. So I would ask respectfully that this board grant the 6-month extension subject to other extensions as may be approved by the legislature.
So we have no knowledge of that here as the board, and what you're...
It hasn't been signed.
Yeah, so what you're suggesting is if we grant a 6-month extension tonight, that 6 month may turn into a 2-year extension. We don't know.
Could be.
So I think the smart thing to do tonight is to grant, if we vote to grant the 6 month, and then we'll see how it plays out.
Right.
Okay.
Do you need any reasons further why we need the extension?
Well, it would be helpful, but not necessary.
All right. Well, basically, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and as I see things, projects are harder and harder to get done in the 1 year from the date of the grant. People are going to various boards, getting tax credits, change in plans. You're going to see that tonight in another case. And the economy has changed things, so it's just been harder to get things through and get them finished. And I think that's probably why this so-called Jobs Act came into play, that we're going to give people more time to get things done. So this is a relatively simple situation. There's a house on one lot, vacant lot on another. They front on separate streets. I will tell you in this case, the Hawley Street lot is not an easy lot. You know, as a builder, you like to come in, have a nice flat lot, build a house, and off you go. This is on a slope, and I think there's some ledge and some things that need to be removed. So it's been harder to find somebody willing to buy the lot. So that's why I would ask the extension, and I assume that by tomorrow it'll be a 2-year extension, but who knows?
So basically, you're saying construction challenges.
Yes.
Okay, Board, you've heard the request for a 6-month extension. Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to grant?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded to grant a 6-month extension from tonight's hearing. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry.
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The
Thank you.
6-month extension is granted. All right, the next petition, 2458, the petition of Jonathan Javier, 39 South Street, Brockton, Mass., for a variance seeking relief from Section 2720 to keep a 6-foot fence in an R2 zone located 39 South Street. Anybody here representing that case? All right, with permission of the board, why don't we delay that till the end of the evening?
Okay.
We will move on to the next case. Those people that just came in the room, are you here for South Street? No? Okay. All right, the next case, 2459, a petition of Locust Walk LLC, 297 Union Avenue, Framingham, Mass., for a special permit seeking relief from Section 2773 and 2765 to erect a pylon sign and EMC sign in a C2 zone located 70 Westgate Drive. Good evening.
Good evening. We're
Please
proposing-
identify yourself to the clerk.
My name's Wiley Knight. This is Marie Mercier. We're representing Sign Design. This is our client, Dr. Patrick Aswin, who owns the dentistry on which we're proposing the sign for. So we're proposing a 35-foot, 15-foot wide, 35-foot high, 15-foot wide pylon sign that's going to be installed 10 feet from Westgate Drive, so it's visible from Route 27. Because of the slope of the landscape, we need it to be at least 10 to 15 feet in the air, so you can see all the sign panels up top from Route 27. So that's going to be the first sign, and then the second sign is going to be an electronic message center that's going to be installed on the side of the building facing the parking lot, so my client can display images, text, and display products and sell his brand.
Mr. Chair, if I could?
Yep.
So on the larger sign against the wall, is, maybe you said this, maybe you didn't, is it going to be for selling advertising space within the mall area too, or is that specific to the business?
No, hi, Patrick Ashoon, I'm an orthodontist.
You step to the mic, please, sir.
If you can please use the mics.
Patrick Ashoon, I'm the dentist, the orthodontist. So this is to display the services that we do inside our office,
Okay.
inside that building. Nothing to do with the mall. We're not selling, it's us. It's for our use. What we do, such as teeth whitening or braces, Invisalign, like stuff
Everything that, to conduct your
that we do.
business?
Yeah,
Okay.
inside our office.
Okay. And on the rectangular vertical sign, the placement is pretty, the way you have it mocked up here, the placement is pretty good. It does not get into the line of sight in any driving instance, does it? Is that how you designed it?
Yes, it's in our parking lot, because initially we were going to put it a little bit more forward to where the red lights are, but then after consulting and all that stuff, we were told that, we had to put it back kind of inside. We'll lose like a parking spot, but then we can go bigger, because as Wally was saying, in order to be seen from, all the sides. So that's why.
Okay.
Will your signage interfere with the power lines? Because it seems really close. Was that taken into consideration?
Yeah, we'll make sure it's not
Electrical
close to
currents
the power
and
lines.
what you're installing there?
Yes, we'll be installing from the parking lot, so the power lines won't come into play, and we'll make sure there's plenty of space between the power lines and the sign.
Okay.
Have you consulted with National Grid about that, though?
Is there
They have
standards?
requirements.
Like how close you can get certain?
Yeah, what we were planning to, if this was approved, we were planning to get the wires covered, just in case. We've worked with National Grid before, and they cover it with those orange covers, so we were going to run it by them, but we needed this approval first. That's sort of the next couple steps in the project management process.
Okay, so there are requirements, though, how far they have to be away, even after you take the orange covers off, though.
Yeah.
That's the concern.
Did I see reference in your plans that you submitted about this pylon sign, that you were going to upgrade a pylon sign or whatever?
This is the pylon sign that we're talking about, this triangle pylon sign?
Correct. So that's a brand-new sign.
This is a brand-new sign, correct?
All right. Somewhere I read okay, I guess it's the way it is written on this request. All right. Do you know how many square feet of signage you currently have on that building?
I don't. How many square footage do I currently have? We have a sign next to our front door. Yeah, I don't recall what's the size of the current, we don't have any pylon sign, it's the size of the current, we have a sign on top of the front door that says Children and Family Danish Embraces.
Are you aware of the code in the city that regulates the amount of signs that you can have on a building that's based upon the frontage of the building? Okay, if you're not,
Yeah.
okay, that's okay. I am going to say that it is my opinion as one member of the board that you are way over what is allowed for signage on that building as it stands. With the sign that you have on the front of the building, all the signs that you have in the windows, you have a wall sign that faces Route 27, and you also have a pylon sign that's above the roof on the 27 side.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the sign expert told me that we're above where there's a sign on top of the roof that is that can spin by the wind. We're fine losing that sign. There's a sign that's basically useless, which is a sign that's I think it's on a pole. I don't know if
Yes.
right. So we're fine losing that sign because it's useless, so to speak. The sign that is on a rectangular, on top of the building, we're fine losing that sign.
So the sign that's on the pylon on the back side of the building, which is up against Route 27 cutoff,
Yeah.
you're telling us that you're going to remove that sign?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. The other concern with this sign is it appears as though this is going to be a three-sided sign, this pylon sign.
Yes.
A three-sided sign is not allowed. You would have to ask for relief for a it's only a sign on two sides that's allowed, not three-sided, okay? The electronic sign that's proposed to be mounted on the side of the building is 21 feet long and 10 feet high. Can you tell us something about that sign? What's the intent of the use of that sign?
So this is the sign that he was just talking to the gentleman there, that he wants to put what services that they have, if they have a special going on.
It's more to display. I'm not so much into specials. I'm more into
Could you use the microphone, please? Thank you.
It's more to show the pictures of people smiling. And so I've done that in another office, and it's very nice to sometimes like just showing a family and the kids like smiling, so portraying that, this is what we do in this office. We take care of oral health and smile. So it's more to show, not necessarily to show, coupons or stuff like that. It's more to display what we do. And so it'll be just like you see in the picture, so that could be a family, with them smiling. And so that'll be changing, because that's what people like to see. They like to see, that's what I like to see, is people smile. And so that's what we'll be displaying.
Will there be messages that are put on that also?
Welcoming patients, welcoming this, but that's about it. Like I'm more into offering braces, right? So stuff like that. So it's more like offering Invisalign, offering, teeth whitening for you and the family. And so that would be that. We won't be mentioning like pricing and stuff like that, because I'm not, I find that displaying the services that you do is a lot more attractive than, putting in prices and stuff like that. If you see on the windows, we don't have any pricing, so to speak.
All right, and the pylon sign, can you describe to us what that sign is 15 feet wide and 24 feet high?
Yeah, just going back on the sides, on the size of the sign, and you mentioned the three, earlier you mentioned it had 3 surfaces, right? And we're only allowed 2 surfaces. It is basically to be able to show, ideally speaking, the sign, so that whether you're on, I forgot the name of the highway, but whether you're on the top or facing, there's 3 different ways you could be facing it, right? You could be facing it coming from or to the Westgate Mall, and also when you're on top of the valley, right? And so the intent was that, and if you look at the second picture, not the second picture, but the picture, the picture that has, this picture that has the pink rectangles, right? But basically, it's, if you see the second row, the middle picture on the second row, is to be able to see the different facet of that sign, no matter where you are, whether you're coming to the Westgate Mall, going to or coming from, or if you're on top there. That was the intent of why the 3 surfaces. And as Wiley was saying, when I met with him and we kind of toured the area, and we appreciate, and that's why we're here, is because Wiley told me that you're outside of code here, and so we have to go through this, this process here, is to be able to see the sign, because it starts about once it's 10 feet or above high, right? That's when the pylon starts. So the size of it is to be able to, it's inside the parking lot, because we were told you can be like right there. Theoretically speaking, if we're able to put it more to the front, then it could be a lot smaller. But since we're erecting it in the kind of, out of the parking lot, that's why. But that's why we're asking for your approval and permission if we're allowed to have, that size sign because of its location in the parking lot.
Is that sign also going to be an LED sign?
No.
How will it be lighted?
It'll be internally illuminated with LEDs that shine out of each face. So each graphic you see on the sign,
Right.
there'll be LEDs on the inside shining out of the faces.
Right.
So there'll be no changeable copy on that then?
No.
No.
The only changeable copy is the one that's on the building?
Yes.
Correct.
Building inspector, they're asking for 35 feet in height. Is that a variance also?
Yes, it is.
Because 30 feet is the limit.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, just a couple of things that I want to mention while we are in this phase of the hearing. it would appear that what you're looking for tonight is permission to have a three-sided sign, permission to have a pylon sign, permission to have that pylon sign to be 35 feet high, which 30 feet is the maximum, so you want to go an extra 5 feet. And you want permission for an LED sign, which is the one that's going to be mounted on the side of the building. That's where we are so far tonight. Okay. If this was to be granted, those signs can only be eliminated when the business is open. They cannot go all night long, because they're an accessory sign to that business.
Including the pylon sign? Because the pylon, I understand the, the EMC, but the pylon sign, are you saying the pylon sign can only be illuminated at night, like, for example, right now, when only during business hours? That's what you're saying?
After, it can't be operated after 11 o'clock at night
Oh, yeah.
or while the business is open. So if you closed at 8 o'clock, it could stay on till 11, but it can't stay on past 11 o'clock.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, that's totally fine. I thought you said when we close the office, which is typically at 5 or 6 p.m.
Right. So where I was going with the comment was that that sign can't stay lit 24 hours a day. So if the business is closed, the sign has to be extinguished after 11 o'clock at night. Okay. On an LED sign, you need to understand that the logo or the face of that sign cannot change any more frequent than once every 10 seconds. So it can't be flashing, can't be animated. Once something is on that screen, it has to stay for at least 10 seconds as a minimum. There is also an industry standard sign company that the intensity of the LED is stronger during daylight hours and less during nighttime hours. You probably know much more about that than I do.
Yeah, so I think usually, on a dimmer. Yeah, so usually we can put a dimmer on them, so as the daylight becomes night, then the intensity will come down.
Well, I just want to make sure we all understand this, because this is a very high-intensity traffic turning movement area. And that sign, if it's bright during the night, can be blinding, so especially where it's 21 feet by 10 feet. So I just want to make sure that we understand that if this was granted, that will be part of the decision, that has to be that way. And you have told us that the pylon sign that currently exists on the back side of the building is going to be removed. So there'll be one pylon sign, but it's going to be 35 feet high. And the reason you're asking for the extra height is because of the depression in the parking lot?
Right.
Is that how I understand it?
Yeah. The depression and position of the sign in the parking lot so that it's away from the sidewalk, the wires, front.
All right, board members, any other questions?
Just one last, if I could. If this was approved, and I wouldn't stipulate this or anything, but I would encourage you to maybe work with, because you're going to have excellent visibility, maybe some community events could help, because you might be working with different, say, DW Field Park, stuff like that. Just in the future, you might want to consider that if this does get approved.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We actually do a lot with the schools. Actually, my partner, Dr. Paul, has been there since 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So she's very involved in the fairs and stuff like that. But we love community fairs and community event and being involved in the community. What were the community events that you were referring to?
I was just, just what we said, schools, anything else the city council or the mayor may find valuable, things like that. I think it would behoove you too, because people will start to look to your sign for information in your business.
Good what? Yeah. All right, board members, any other questions? None? Everybody's good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official in the room that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that has any question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That would conclude the public discussion relative to this issue. I will now close that portion and open it up for deliberation among the board members. Board members.
I think it's an appropriate place. I mean, I think it modernizes that part of the mall. It doesn't just, my main concern is safety for drivers. I think it's arguably our busiest roadway, but it doesn't fall into the line of sight. I think it kind of brightens up that entrance a little bit. I would be in favor.
My concern was the other sign out there, and that being removed, because that's not mentioned, I didn't see anywhere in the document, so that makes a difference to me. So I don't know, because it's not in the document, should we put that in as a stipulation to make sure it's done?
No movement. Is that what you said?
No, removal of the other sign.
Oh, yeah, that's all part of it, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, as we move along here, I'm going to ask you if unofficially we want to take this all together, or do you want to single out different things, or?
I would say it's one and the same, because if they don't get one, they don't get any, so.
That's how kind of I feel about it also.
One vote.
Any other board member have anything to say about it?
Motion to grant.
Well,
Second.
Before we do a motion to grant, I just want to make a couple of comments. My opinion is this sign on the side of the building, 21 feet long, 10 feet high, is way too big for that location. Any cars that are going west on Reynolds Highway that may be turning into Westgate Mall, I think this sign is going to be a huge distraction. The pylon sign is what it is, but the sign on the side of the building is, in my opinion, going to be a distraction where people that are driving on 27 are going to be looking over at that sign and not paying attention to movements at Reynolds Highway and Westgate Drive. I can see rear-end collisions being caused there because of what's going on with this sign. The number of signs on this building, again, in my opinion, far exceeds what is allowed for signage on that building. I don't know if you went up there and looked at it, but the whole front of that building is signage. They have a sign on the back of the building. They now want to put this 21 by 10 electronic sign, plus they want a three-sided sign. Our zoning only allows a two-sided sign, so in the granting, if this is granted, you're going to have to consider, do you want to grant a three-sided sign? And we heard the testimony tonight as to why they're asking for a three-sided sign. So I just want to express my opinion. I think the size of the sign going on the side of that building up there is way too big for that intersection where people are making turning movements, coming from Pleasant Street on a Reynolds Highway, the traffic signal at Westgate Drive, the entrance going into the gas station. There's a lot of movements going on at that corner. That's my concern. So we have a motion on the floor,
I second.
and the motion is?
Motion to grant was seconded by,
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Now, are we going to collectively talk, or grant all of these?
all of them.
Pylon sign to be
Yes.
removed. We're going to grant a three-sided sign, a pylon sign, an LED sign, and the height to 35 feet. Okay. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
No.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry.
No.
Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 2 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative.
The vote is 2 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. The petition as presented is denied. So you can come back with a different plan or whatever, but the one that's before us tonight has been denied. Thank you.
For both signs?
Yeah, they did it as a full package, so we have to just redo it. Great. Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair and Board.
The next petition is 2460, the petition of Joseph Doriska, 78 Rockland Drive, Brockton, Mass., for a variance, seeking relief from Section 2725 to allow commercial use in a residential zone and permit parking of 5 student transportation commercial vehicles in an R1B zone located 78 Rockland Drive.
Good evening, members of the board. Matthew Ezepek here for Joseph Doriska. Mr. Doriska is also here.
Could you say your name again?
Matthew Ezepek.
Yeah. And how do you spell your last name?
It's Ezepek.
Got it. Thank you.
So again, as mentioned, this is really a petition for a variance to allow the parking of 5 commercial vehicles on Mr. Doriska's lot at 78 Rockland Drive. The petition did suggest that the operation of a business incidental to the residential home. However, just to clarify that point, the parking of the vehicles is the business. That's the only business that takes place at the residence. There is no, as noted in the petition, this is a business that's used to transport students to and from Brockton Public Schools. So the vans, there are 4 passengers vans that are parked at the property. Those are 9 passenger vans, so 9 passengers are able to fit in the back seats. There's 4 of those. There is 1 minivan that's again used to transport students to and from the Brockton Public Schools. There are no students arriving daily at the property. The employees of the business are all residents of 78 Rockland Drive. That's Mr. Doriska himself, his wife, and his 2 children. So the use of these vehicles is no more than these individuals who already live at the property using their personal vehicles to go to and from work every day. The extent of the business that's conducted at the residence is, again, storing the vehicles, leaving, and coming home each day. In addition to the commercial vehicles that are parked at the property, there's only 1 non-commercial vehicle that's parked there. It's another minivan that is primarily used by Mr. Doriska. The minivan that is used in the course of the business is also able to be used as a personal vehicle. So the parking of these 5 commercial vehicles is not overburdening the lot. It's not overburdening the neighborhood. In fact, with the petition, we had letters from 3 neighbors, 3 abutters directly from adjacent to the property that noted there are no ongoing issues with these vehicles being parked. The plan was provided to the board with the petition that showed the area of the parking where the vans are parked. It's a substantial size driveway. It's 1,250 square feet. All vehicles are able to be parked in a manner that's not interfering with the use of the street. There doesn't have to be any vehicle parked on the street. And again, I do note that the use of this property, again, is limited to employees who actually reside on the property. So there's never a situation where even employees are coming to pick up the vehicles, leaving their personal vehicles in the driveway or on the street, and then taking the commercial vans from the premises. This is strictly a family-operated business with family residing in the home. So I feel this is a reasonable use of the premises, not interfering with the use of a residential zone. As mentioned, it's very similar to individuals just leaving and coming home from work. But there would be a hardship if Mr. Doriska was not allowed to operate his business. There are, obviously, there's a financial detriment if he were forced to find a commercial lot in Brockton. It may be cost prohibitive, which would force him to seek areas to park his vehicles or garage them outside of the city. And again, there's issues with the employees being transported to that new site. There's also an incentive for Mr. Doriska to maintain these vehicles in his personal control, insurance purposes. These are vans that are used for Brockton students. So it's very important that they be maintained close to Mr. DeRiska in the city, and additionally making sure that students are all picked up and dropped off timely. It is of utmost importance to ensure that these vehicles are in the direct possession of Mr. DeRiska and his employees at all times. So for those reasons, we are asking that that a use variance be allowed to allow just, again, use for a commercial purpose, really just in storing and parking those vehicles, because that is the business. There's no other business being operated from the premises.
Mr. Chair, if I could?
Yeah.
What's the power source? Is it of fuel? Is it gas? Is it diesel? Electric? What are these vehicles?
These are gas vehicles. I can inquire as to whether they're diesel or not, just regular gas.
Gas? Okay. Where are they parked now?
They are currently being parked at the premises.
Okay, and they've been parked since the beginning of the school year?
Yes, they have been. In fact, in inquiring with my client, the reason he retained our offices was he thought that that this was an allowed use. He's been using it, candidly, he's been using it in this manner for 19 or so years that he's owned the property.
How many years?
About 19 years.
19 years?
Yes. So again, perhaps unbeknownst to him, he may have been in violation of a zoning law, but as soon as he was notified recently of these potential issues, that's when we came to the board and sought this use variance to ensure that use can be continued.
Yeah, thank you.
What's the hardship?
Again, there would be a strong financial hardship in that without these vehicles being in his possession, one, that's going to require him to find commercial space to rent. And this isn't a substantially lucrative business. It's only able to support Mr. DeRiska and his family by virtue of not having a ton of overhead. So him having to find commercial space just to park these vehicles is going to obviously cause an increase in expense just for the rent that he's going to have to pay, for the insurance that he's going to have to pay, because that's going to be increased because these are no longer going to be in his possession at all times. So there's going to be additional insurance and additional risk involved because this is going to open up the door to vandalism, theft a little bit more than when these are just parked in his at his residence.
So this hardship has nothing to do with soil, lot shape, size, anything like that?
It does not.
Okay.
It does not.
Use variance.
Oh, it's a use variance, I'm sorry. So let me ask you another question. You state that there's no business being run out of this property, but by the mere fact that these vehicles are being parked there, as far as I'm concerned, that's a business being run out of that property. I don't see the distinction you're making between there is no business and it's just their personal vehicles, but they're, as you stated, but they're commercial vehicles.
So to maybe clarify my point, maybe I wasn't entirely clear with it. I was suggesting that the parking of the commercial vehicles is the business. I agree with you. That is the business.
Okay.
The suggestion was just that there was no other business being run. There's no customers, clients coming to the property. There's no employees coming to the property to pick up those vehicles. By nature of this business, there's not even paperwork or invoicing being handled inside the property. It's just the business is the parking of the vehicles and operating them.
So if I own a landscape lot and I do all the books out of my office in my home, but I park the landscape vehicles at a lot, where do you think my business is?
If you park your
So
vehicles,
if I park I have a lot that I park the landscape vehicles at, but I do the bookkeeping at my house.
okay.
I would venture to say that the business is in both places. So to say there's no business going on in this residential driveway, for the most part. It's a driveway, it's a raised ranch home, it's a driveway. To say there's no business going on there is not really exactly true, because there is business going on there. I don't know where they do their books, I don't know where they do anything else or anything to that nature, but the running of the business, whether it's going on wherever they're doing that, it's still the business. I would venture to say that the business is the driveway where these vehicles are being parked.
I'm in agreement with you.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So you said there's no other business going on here. There is business going on here. I just want to confirm, you're stating that there are never any students dropped off here or anything? These vehicles leave the premises and pick up students around the city to bring them to the Brockton Public Schools, and there's no children or anything ever dropped at this home to be driven to the schools?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. So no business, no children being dropped off. It's a financial hardship, that's what you're claiming?
Yes.
Where are these vehicles being worked on if there's maintenance that needs to be done to them?
Largely those, if they would have to be taken to a garage.
They're not being worked on in the driveway or anything?
Other than, maybe adding fluid to the vehicles, no mechanical work being done in the...
So you're doing business work in a driveway in a residential neighborhood, because you're adding fluids that are working to move the business forward, because if you don't add the fluid, the vehicles can't move. I have an issue with saying there is no business, but there is a business. It's like there is and there isn't. You see what I'm getting at?
Well, I understand what you're getting at. I'm acknowledging there's a business. If I was saying there was no business being done here, I don't think we'd be seeking a use variance to operate the business from the premises. So I acknowledge there is a business being done just simply by virtue of those cars being parked there. I agree with you on that piece of it. So if I suggested that there's no business being conducted there, I was only suggesting that there was no other business other than the vehicles, because the vehicles are the business. That's what the business is.
Okay.
So I was just suggesting again that there's no customers, clients, students, employees coming to the home and doing other things associated with the business.
Okay. All right.
So you're saying pretty much like a electrician or a plumber with two vehicles, that type of business?
Exactly. Everything that's actually being done relating to the business, all the actual work, other than the storing of the vehicles, occasional topping off of window, washing fluid, stuff like that, that's all done off premises. There's an off-premises business. It can't be, by its nature, it can't be conducted on the premises other than, again, the storage of the vehicles.
So, a question. So you said there's 4 9-seater passenger van and a minivan that's part of the business, and then there's an additional vehicle that's a personal vehicle, so there's 6 vehicles?
That's correct. Yes, there's 6 vehicles.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
So there must be a contract with the city, the school department, for the services.
That's correct.
Is there anything in the contract that states where these can and cannot be placed when you have that type of contract with the city?
I can inquire with my client, is there anything in the contract with the city that...
Yes, yep, the city, the state, the registry, they all know it's 78 Rockland Drive.
But are there any stipulations as to, properly, obviously you're before us today, but is there anything that says where you need to keep them?
Oh, like a specific designation of it
Right.
being in a commercial area or anything
Exactly.
like that? I don't believe there is in the contract.
Okay.
The contract does note that it is, that they're going to be stored at 78 Rockland Drive, but I don't think there was any kind of diligence done to ensure, okay, is this properly in a commercial zone or anything like that. I don't think there's anything along those lines to ensure that zoning-wise that it was an appropriate area.
Thank you.
So you're basically saying this is a family business, everyone's relatives that's running this business?
Yes, it's...
Living in the same household?
Exactly, yes. Mr. DeRisca is the owner, his wife, and his 2 children who all live at 78 Rockland Street. Those are the only employees of the business.
So that's 4 people?
Yes.
So but there's 5 cars?
Right, so all 5 aren't used
Okay.
on an everyday basis.
The reason that you're here tonight is a complaint was filed through the building department, and you received documentation from the building department that you would need a variance in order to do what you're trying to do at Rockland Drive. That's why you're here.
That is correct.
Okay. I have found in the records that on September 7th, 2010, that the petitioner was summoned to housing court here in Brockton relative to this same issue, and they were in violation of the ordinance for running a business out of the house. They were summoned into court. It was a criminal complaint that was brought out, and in the agreement that apparently was proffered as a result of this is that the defendant shall be permanently restrained from using the premise at 78 Rockland Drive as a place of business in violation of the revised zoning ordinances of the city of Brockton. So to say that he didn't know that he couldn't do this is a little disingenuous. He knew full well that he could not operate this business from that house. And it got to the point where it actually ended up in court before a judge, and a judge has made a ruling. So now I guess it's before the board to decide whether or not we want to overrule the decision of the court to grant him a variance to run a business out of the house, and maybe that then would make this court decision moot. I'm not quite sure how that would go. But just be aware, I don't know if you're aware of that fact, that 14 years ago, this was brought to court and a judgment was given for it, so.
Yes, Mr. Duriska had informed me that he had been to court on this particular issue and thought everything was all set. I wasn't fully aware of the particulars of that case because the housing court, I guess, was the one court I hadn't checked on it, but I understand. I understand that that there had been some proceedings relating to this issue in the past.
So the decision was only 2 vehicles could be parked on that lot. That could be 2 vans with no cars, a car and a van, or 2 cars with no van. So the off-street parking is designated as 2 vehicles. So I think there's no question here from the testimony that I've heard anyway that there is a business running, and what you're here for tonight is our permission to allow you to run the business in the residential zone. I think that's why you're here tonight. Very
Yes,
good.
that's correct.
Any other questions from the board members? Everybody good? All right, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone in the room that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion on the issue. I'll now open it up for deliberation among board members. Board members.
I think it's pretty clear there's a business being operated. There's been a court case that says he can't run a business. So,
Chief, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. So obviously, it's been made pretty clear that there's a business being run out of this premises. There was a court case in 2010 that states that that could not happen. So now for 14 years, that has been going on with a judgment against this happening. So pretty clear cut to me.
I would agree, Chief.
I'll make a motion to grant.
Second.
All right, the motion to grant is to allow the petitioner to run a business in a residential zone as was described tonight. Motion has been made and seconded. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus.
No.
Chief Nadelli.
No.
Mr. Sweeney.
No.
Ms. Greenberry.
No.
Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
Is 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Petition 2461, which was 90 Layden Park Road, will not be heard this evening. 2462, petition of Fausto Barros, CO, in care of John E. McCluskey, 1325 Belmont Street, Brockton, for a variance to convert an existing two-family to a three-family, seeking relief from Article 3 and Section 27-9 in an R2 zone located 33 South Street.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Clerk, Attorney John McCluskey, representing petitioner Faustus Barros. Hey, Dan, how are you? We're next.
Okay, next, okay.
Attorney Faustus Barros is here. Amilcar Barros and his associate. This property at 3335 South Street, Chief Nardelli probably knows it well, maybe even Chief Galligan, but next door, back in June of 2023, there was a very serious fire on that property, which leapt over into this property, causing total chaos, total damage. It didn't burn to the ground, obviously, but everybody was evacuated. The building was boarded up. Mr. Barros was living there with his family and intends to continue to live there. He's living elsewhere now, temporarily, hopefully. This is a petition to seek to turn a two-family home into a three-family home using virtually the same space and an area without significantly impacting any expansion of the building. The way the property is being used legally, I believe, back in 2023 was as a two-family. On the first floor, there was a three-bedroom apartment. On the second floor, there was a three-bedroom apartment, but on the third floor, there were additionally 4 additional bedrooms as part of the second floor apartment building. So in all, there were 10 bedrooms in a two-family home. The proposed project is to convert that, we're in an R2 zone, convert the existing building without any significant changes. There's some dormer changes in the front just to give some extra room, but to turn that two-family into a three-family, basically taking the third floor as opposed to being annexed to the second floor and making it an independent third apartment with 3 bedrooms as opposed to 4 bedrooms. So we're reducing the size or the number of bedrooms by 1, which would make 3, 3, and 3 as opposed to 10 bedrooms. We're also going to raise the garage in the back. That's going to disappear, and there'll be a new garage which Mr. Barros would use exclusively for his family, consisting of 2 spaces for cars, and I think a little work area, just a shop, if you will, that he likes to tinker with things. And so there'd be a total of 9 parking spaces. So there'd be a parking space for each bedroom. As you see on the plan, I think it works pretty well. The first several parking spaces are slanted, but it gives ample access to back out. South Street is not that busy a street. I think they could easily back out of those parking spaces and come out the front. If not, if they needed to, they could go up and turn around where the garage that's to be raised is presently located. So first off, we're reducing the number of bedrooms. We're increasing the number of apartments, but I think it's an overall improvement so that there'd be 3 families as opposed to just extended families, et cetera. It's a large lot, 12,637 square feet. So that's a pretty good size down in the Campello district. I think the house I grew up in was about the same. One family, but early on, my dad had his business in there. Not on this property. Property's boarded up and vacant, so there's a hardship now that we need to do something. We need to get Mr. Barris and his family back into the home. We need to put this back in good shape, and he's shown me plans, and you've seen them here, certainly capable of doing that. Question is to hardship. We've got the fire that created the problem. The home has been boarded up. Property desperately needs rebuilding, and this is a historic area, and certainly Campello could use sprucing up a little bit in some of these neighborhoods. South Street actually looks like a pretty good street still, and people have put money into their homes on that street. The second hardship is the apartment consisting of 7 bedrooms on the second and third floor. That's really not a good solution for, 7 bedrooms in a home. To me, it invites issues, and I think it's better to break it up into 3 apartments. And the overall effect would be negligible because we have plenty of off-street parking. It's in a multifamily zone, so doing what we're proposing to do, I think, makes some sense. And therefore, I'd request that the board grant a variance to do a 3-family in basically the same structure as the 2-family.
How many off-street parking spots do you have?
Sorry?
How many off-street parking spots do you have?
9.
9?
Under the new plan. So there's an existing garage right here. That'll be raised coming in from South Street. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This is out. 5, 6, 7, and then 2 over here. There's 9. And they all really seem to have good ability to access in and out without any congestion.
It looks here, just correct me by the pictures and what I've seen, and it looks like you're going from what was like a 2.5-story wood frame colonial house to really what looks like now like a 3-decker with a peaked roof.
Yeah, we're bumping it out a little bit in the front. Honestly, this isn't going to look like a 3-decker, but you are going to have a little bit of a bump out on the roof to the right of the building in here, and I don't think this isn't a gorgeous building to begin with, but I think overall the improvement is going to be significant.
I think just to the point in aesthetically, and this is just a thing with me, it's going from what, even the picture you show here, it's hard to tell now from the fire what it looked like before, but I mean, it has a lot of ornate, the half-story and such, and then when you go down to the picture that's shown, that's straight on, it really looks like a 3-decker you'd see in Worcester with a peaked roof. You know what I mean? It doesn't have that.
Well, I'm not going to fight with you on that interpretation, but honestly, I think it's going to work for that property.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I think it's just to me, it looks like a drastic change to what the building looks like, and we've done these before, and it ends up looking like a 3-decker. When that's why. So it's just, those are the things that concern me, especially with a lot of the ornateness of that neighborhood and some of the design of that neighborhood is very ornate and old school. And this doesn't look like it's going to have that in it. And again, this is a thing on my part. It's not, I'm not speaking obviously for part of the board. I don't think, I guess the thing is the picture that is in the plans does not do justice then probably what maybe they're envisioning. And now, is this, the other question I had, is this going to be owner occupied completely, or are they looking to rent these out?
I'm sorry?
Are they looking to rent these out, or is this going to be owner
Well,
occupied?
Mr. Barris is going to live there. He was living
whole
there.
family?
And he's coming back. So, yes, those would be rented out.
They'll be rented out to family, or, it doesn't matter, I'm just, doesn't matter.
You know, I mean, he could rent it out to family, but we haven't discussed that.
Understood.
Yeah. Just that there'd be, you know, rental units.
Understood.
I don't know if you had any suggestions as to a different
I don't think you have a choice when you're
aisle,
taking
whether it
a
should be
house.
more changed in the back, but quite frankly, you know, there's a lot of, there are a lot of multifamilies in this neighborhood. There are a lot of three families, three deckers. It's not out of keeping with the general neighborhood. And honestly, it's going to be an improvement to this situation. This is a bad situation. And it needs some help, and Mr. Barros is willing to step to the plate and spend a lot of money to do this. And he wants this to be his home. And so respectfully, I hear you, what you're saying. Not all of the homes on, there are some nice historic homes on South Street. The Wainwrights used to live there, and there was a lot of money put into that home. The Keiths used to live there, and I don't think there's any real historic significance to this house other than its location. So honestly, I don't think that it would be a detraction from the neighborhood. I think, you know, it screams out to be fixed up and something happen. As we see, you know, we're just talking about this permit extension. It's tough to do business today. It's very hard to get your project done in a way that works for everybody. And so I honestly think that, you know, I've had discussions with members of the board that people come into my office and I don't take all the cases anymore. You know, I say, now, wait a minute, this isn't going to fly. I took one off the list tonight because after seeing there's an evolution in this board. There's some things going on that didn't happen before, and I appreciate that. You know, I was a citizen of Brockton. I still think I am a citizen of Brockton. I don't vote here, but I'm here more than I'm anywhere else. And I like to see. I always tell people that Brockton is my favorite place, and you know, I think this one's going to work.
Can you explain to the board on the plans here, it shows new egress stairs from the basement with proposed casement egress windows from the basement. Is there an intention here to develop the basement into living space?
No. In fact, which plans are you looking at? The house plans?
The one that says current and proposed. It's dated September 29th, 2020.
Well, the answer is absolutely not, that there would not be any use of the basement for residential purposes, other than, obviously, for utilities and storage and things like that. I may have missed on some old plans. I will tell you that I did see something, and it wasn't, I don't think it was their plans. I think it was someone else's. But, you know, we've got two firefighters on the board here. Funky exits from basements aren't going to work. So I think we have an existing exit from the basement.
Well, we have to go by what the building code is, and I'm just asking a question. Is there a
No,
proposal?
that's not going to be, there's not going to be any residential use in the basement.
Okay.
We could stipulate to that, put it in the decision, absolutely no residential use in the basement. And I know people like to do that, but we see it all over the place.
A couple of other things. First of all, this house sits in what is called the South Street Historic District, as you're probably aware of.
Right.
For whatever that means today, I'm not quite sure, but that whole street was if the plans that you show us with the new stairways on the back of the building, that's going to require a special permit. Exterior stairways now require a special permit.
Well, they have to be covered.
No, these are not covered. These are in the open.
But if they're covered, do they still require a special permit?
No, Mr. Building Inspector, in this case.
If they're exterior stairs. If it's an interior stairwell, it would be different.
So I know this is something that I actually heard a couple of meetings
It's
ago.
relatively new.
Yeah, it's fairly new. So I don't know if I mentioned to my clients that stairwells have to be covered. So do we need to amend to request a special permit?
Well,
for
there
that?
would have to be a request for a special permit to allow exterior stairways on the outside of the building.
Then I'd like to make a motion to amend the petition to do that.
The other concern I have is the size of the proposed garage.
Well, it's going to fit 3 vehicles.
I realize that, but under 2726, a dwelling and a garage in the backyard, the garage at the back of the backyard can't be more than 30% of the square footage of the first floor of the dwelling. So right now, the proposed garage is 936 square feet. And I got a note here that I wrote down that the garage is limited to about 400 square feet. So it's way over the size that is allowed on that property as an accessory structure to this
So I
house.
need a variance to amend that.
You need a variance to allow for a 3-car garage of that size.
And
Now,
I,
again,
make a
we have
motion.
no
I
picture
wasn't
here.
aware of that.
We don't know what this
regulation.
garage is going to look like,
I'd make
whatever.
a motion to amend to allow a three-door garage. As I say, in particular, Mr. Barros likes to tinker with things, and
The other thing, I checked with the assessors on their map. It shows that this lot contains 10,300 square feet, and you're telling us it's 12,000 something. Whatever the number
yeah, the
was.
surveyor has it at a total of 12,637.
Correct, and the assessors show 10,300 square feet. Now, when you look at the plans...
I think you'd have to defer to the actual survey.
Well, I'm just bringing this up
Yeah.
because on the back, on what has been shown here, on the back property line, where the stake is set, is not where the property line is drawn right now. So I'm just concerned that we have a discrepancy here on how big this lot is. And based upon that discrepancy determines whether or not you can have a multifamily house if you don't have the square footage. So there's a question here now whether we have sufficient square footage to allow a 3-family house.
Well, I think that's easily resolved, because I could have the surveyor provide an 81X plan, which shows the lines of existing ownership.
Okay, I just want to bring that out.
Yeah.
That there's a discrepancy here of what the records of the city show for this property and what is being presented here tonight.
That's not uncommon.
All right. And just before if we, no more questions from the board, I would just like, once again, if you can just tell us what the hardship is with this location,
Sure.
why it needs to go to a 3-family?
As I've noted in my memo, it certainly was subject to a large house fire in June of 2023 at an adjacent home that spread to 3335 South, and all the residents were evacuated. So we have a situation where we have a 2-unit apartment with way too many bedrooms in the second floor, and it just makes that an unusual situation as opposed to regarding the, if you will, not the shape, size, and topography, but the structural situation on the property, which actually plays into, by case law, the location of the property, the size of it, the use of it, sometimes plays into hardship quite easily. So the home needs to be brought back into shape, and the best way to do it, and it's got a hardship on the property now because of the fire, best way to do it is to make it work by using 3 apartments as opposed to 2.
Got it. Okay, very good. Any other questions from board members? None? We're good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and I'm going to open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone in the room that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given at this hearing? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I'll now open it up for board deliberations. Board members.
So how many add-ons did we, to that, or, requests for variance for the garage? There was another one we just discussed. What was that?
Variance for 3-car garage, special permit for rear stairs, variance for 3-car oversized garage, and also a stipulation on no basement apartments.
Okay.
I have 3. I don't know if there were any others.
Thank you, Chief.
So you're saying that he's asking for a special permit for the stairs,
Correct.
and he's asking for a variance to allow an oversized garage,
Yes, that's what I have written down. And
and a stipulation that there'll be no livable dwelling in the basement?
correct, that's what I have down.
I think that's what we heard in the
Yeah.
testimony. We don't know what this garage is going to look like. There's no rendering of what the garage will look like.
No.
It says it's going to be a proposed 3-door garage, and it's 6 feet from the rear and 6 feet from the east property line.
I think where it's, we're asking for the variance tonight, it'd be nice to know what it looks like.
Yeah, do we have the height of the garage? No, we don't have that.
I don't know.
No
1 story.
details.
So it's a 1-story garage with a pitched roof.
Motion to grant?
Second.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded to grant. Now, what we're granting here in this vote is to allow this dwelling to be converted into a 3-family dwelling. We're granting a special permit for the stairs on the rear. We're granting an additional variance for an oversized garage, and we're stipulating that no basement living space dwelling will be in the basement of that building.
Is that still for covered stairs? So we're given the special permit to have external stairs, but they have to be covered.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said we're given a special permit to have the external stairs, and then you had mentioned something, they needed to be covered, the stairs?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to explain that?
Yes, so exterior stairs are exposed stairs, and that's what the special permit would be for. There's no requirement to have it covered under the zoning ordinances or the state building code, just free from snow and ice. So it could be an open stair, it could be a covered stair, but if they were looking for a special permit, it would be an open stair.
Okay.
They wouldn't need a special permit if it was an enclosed stairway, because that would be inside of the building.
Okay.
So what's shown on the plan is an open stairway from an open porch.
Okay.
Just one other comment. I am very concerned about the hardship that was presented to us tonight. This is going to radically change the look of the house that's in the historic district. And in my investigation, the Historic Commission apparently does not exist, but the historic district does exist. So it's kind of in flux as to how that all plays together. But the original plan was for South Street to remain as it did probably 20 years ago when the historic district was created. So I'm not quite sure how that would play into this, but just be aware that, as far as I know, that legislation is still in effect. So there we are. Have we made a motion?
Yes, and
Motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus.
No.
Chief Nadelli.
No. No.
Mr. Sweeney.
No.
Ms. Greenberry.
Yes.
Chief Galligan, Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative.
The vote is 1 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative. The petition as presented is denied.
Okay. Thank you for your consideration.
I'm talking to myself. Say it again.
Don't let me forget that we've got one case that we're holding until the end.
I just caught that. No, the fence. We have it on hold.
Okay, the next petition is 2463, the petitioner Robert Belcher, trustee, Post Office Box 267, Milton, Mass., seeking relief from Article 4, sorry about that, Section 2734, to allow a 5-story residential use and commercial use in a C2 zone located at 159 North Main Street.
Good evening, members of the board. Attorney John McCleskey here for the petitioner. Along with me is Dan Orwig, who is a longtime architect, and he's been involved in this project for a while.
A couple of years, yeah.
The funny thing is that...
Before you get started, could you just spell your last name again?
Mine?
No.
O-R-W-I-G.
O-R-W-I-G.
W-I-G.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Dan's office is down in Duxbury, and he's developed many, many projects through the South Shore and all over the place over the years. Some very nice homes in the Duxbury area that I'm aware of. And has been involved in this project on 159 North Main Street, which has been before this board a number of times. The interesting thing is, today I got in the mail
Before you go any further, we're looking for a variance on this, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Today I got in the mail a decision dated August 16, 2024, where it says that I came before the board in July and made a presentation on this, and I was scratching my head going, I don't remember that at all. And so I had to actually go on to the video tonight to say, was I really there? Because it wasn't in my calendar. But Dan made that presentation. I know that he and I look a lot alike, and we're both very handsome. But it wasn't me. It was Dan. So I think this is the 4th time this has been before the board. And I remember being in the audience a couple of years ago anyway, where Mr. Galligan, chairman, was questioning the number of elevators, the layout, et cetera. And from there, Dan went back to the drawing board and made several changes. I came before this board probably a year and a half ago and was granted a variance for, I can't remember quite the number of units. And then Mr. Orwig came before the board back in July seeking 50 units with Basically the same plan, 102 parking spaces, 2 elevators, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. As you know, it's close to the MBTA transportation system, close to BAT. And it has, in this project, we're looking to increase from 50 units to 68 units. So we're looking to add another 18 units, basically another floor on top of the building.
Yes,
Maybe you could...
Right now, there's the approval you last approved. It was 3 stories of residential, so we're adding 1/4, and that leaves the building height to 57.6 feet, which the maximum height is 60 feet. And there's no change at all in the site plan or parking. We have the same access for the fire tracking through. There's been no changes in that. But the current owner has been advertising and trying to market the property and is having trouble. And he has found somebody, but his reaction was that it's not economic or close to it, and that if you added 1 more floor, which is permitted in this area, that it makes it more economic to build.
And you know, this again goes back to what we were talking about earlier, and the governor signing into this, supposedly signing in a new bill tomorrow to extend the 2 years permitting, because projects are getting tougher and tougher to build. Expenses are going up. You, Mr. Sweeney, know exactly what we're talking about as far as, you know, the cost of construction, the square foot. So when somebody comes in and wants to build this project, financial hardship that bears upon whether the building is going to be constructed. As you know, this is in an I2 zone, industrial zone. That doesn't work downtown. We need more people. Our ratio of parking to the number of units is 1.5 per unit, 1.5 parking spaces per unit. There's a small commercial. Oh, is this not working? My battery's out or something. There's a small commercial area up on Main Street, a couple thousand square feet, that would be used during the day, and people can park on the property during the day while other residents are gone. And you know, it doesn't make sense we need to make this project happen. We need to make it work. And to do that, we need a few more spaces. We need 18 more spaces. And I quite frankly do think that comes into the financial hardship of the project. Wasn't the original hardship that the board granted, because it was a decrepit old building that hasn't been torn down yet. It's still there. Industrial, you know, the uses by right involve large trucks and commercial activity. That's not what we're looking for in downtown Brockton. Hopefully someday we'll get it back to a situation where downtown Brockton will be quite vibrant, and I think many people are working for that. The gentleman who has the old furniture building, he always comes to these meetings in favor of this, and I don't see him tonight, but I think it's just take him for his word that he'd like to see more people come downtown, more activity downtown. We recently had a restaurant, or the beer garden, that closed because it wasn't not enough people yet, but we need to get more people down here.
I just want to go on the record and say it's still open.
I'm sorry?
It's still open.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, the last article I read that they were done. So
I don't want to bring you off topic, but they are still open.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. So that's a good thing. Because as you know, activity like that brings other people down. So with that, you've heard this project a number of times. We just need another 18 spaces. I think we've got plenty of parking to do that. we've got the commuter rail, we've got BAT, and people don't own as many cars as they used to in this type of living. So I'd open up to any questions, since I seem to be losing my voice.
Tony's going to come up and talk about his
Oh, yeah,
relationship
okay.
with...
I'd like to introduce you to Attorney Tony Blaze.
Yes, good evening, members of the board. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. And in any event, I heard Mr. Ted Carmen's name being mentioned. I just want to inform the board that we've been working closely with him. He's a housing expert. He has been assisting us in terms of the technical materials related to the project, and we've been consulting with him extensively. He's also been in touch with the proposed buyers on the project, and of course, the 68 units will make this particular project much more feasible to the buyers, because right now the numbers with the 50 units just cannot work. I do know that the banks are already looking at the numbers, at the proposals, at the rental stream or the income stream over the projected number of years, and we really want to bring this project to fruition. But again, as Attorney McCluskey mentioned, and Mr. Arwig, the numbers at this point just doesn't work. I understand I'm not a technical person, but from what I understand, there's not going to be any kind of material change in terms of the design, in terms of the specifications. The board has already approved that project, and I'm hoping again that the board will take the financial hardship into consideration and approve what is being requested today. Thank you.
Thank you.
So it's my thought that this still would need a site plan review from planning. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
So we have a letter that has come to us from planning. Although the original plan has already passed through site plan review and has been approved by the planning board, if this updated plan is approved by the ZBA, it would then need to pass through site plan review again, as the changes are too substantial for a simple modification of the original approval. So we'd have to go back before planning.
We're prepared to do that, and it would be a modification.
I know a few years ago, one of the biggest concerns I had was obviously parking, because parking is not at the premium on North Main Street in this area. And I was very happy. That was when it was 70 units, if I'm not. How many units was it the first time it came through? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Well, the second time was 50.
Yeah, there was a time before that, though.
It was 90, I believe.
90.
Yeah.
So we had a deep concern about 90. We had a deep concern about them. It was too close to the sidewalk. There were a lot of things that we had some concerns on. Now it's gone from 90 down to 50 is what we approved, correct?
That's correct. And if I may, member of the board, if I may, the parking space was a consideration also, because at the time, I think we had a ratio of 2 to 1.
2 to 1.
And since then,
Yes.
the parking space has been significantly reduced. We still at a higher ratio than is required.
1.76
Yes.
per.
Yeah, per unit, which is higher than what Ted Carmen's approval projects were.
Understood. Okay. So I guess I was trying to get at the parking.
With that,
Yeah. I think I had a deep concern on the original one on the parking because of the businesses downtown and nighttime activities on that stretch of road right near where this is going to be. I was very concerned, obviously, about my fire apparatus getting just down North Main Street, not even on the property itself. So that was 90. Then we moved it to 50 and you went to 2 spots. Now you're at 1.76.
that's right.
Okay. All right.
176.
And there's no change.
I thought it was 1.5 as well. I thought it was 1.5.
1.5.
Parking per?
There's 68 units, and there's 102 parking spaces. Isn't that 1 point?
I'm not good at math.
Five, six.
Stand by.
My
says
notes from
1.5 on
the
the
attorney said
application.
1.5.
Yeah, it says 1.5 on the application, that's why. So that's what I'm going by. I didn't do the math, I took you at your word. So you will,
It's still above Ted Carmen's approved projects. He helped us with
understood.
that.
Nope, and I understand that. I'm not questioning that one bit. Are you expecting commuter rail people living in these apartments? Is that your expectation?
Yes.
This is commuter rail parking?
Yes.
I mean, housing?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Because there's going to be a significant, it's about 50% one-bedrooms and 50% two-bedrooms. So it's...
Understood.
And it's walking distance to the commuter rail.
Mhm.
So, and, you know, we've also been working with Ted on the tax credit area. So that now includes our project as well as Ted's new project. So those little tweaks are really important for this area to go forward.
Greenery?
Yes.
Vegetation around the building? I know that was a concern at the very first time we came through this.
Extensive greening all the way around.
It looks it, yes. So
There's no changes
okay.
in that.
All right. And who's going to maintain that greenery? There'll be a building maintenance company
Yes, there will.
that will handle all of this. I get very concerned. We make all these great plans to do all these things, and we're going to have this beautiful property, and it looks great
Yep.
when it first opens.
And
then I worry, seriously, and I think all of us worry, and we talk about it often here, as you know, because you're here a lot, that what is it going to look like in 5, 6, 10 years? This maintenance company will remain on scene, and they will not only be maintaining the building, but they will also be maintaining the shrubbery and watering and all the things that need to be done with those plantings, right?
Yes.
Okay, because if we're going to try to improve that stretch of North Main, which needs it, trust me, it needs it.
Yep.
We need to not just improve it for the next year when we get the people in the building and then
Yes.
disperse, so, okay, all right.
Although historically, the new buildings that have come on downtown, they still look pretty good.
Because they're less than 5 years old, a lot of them,
Well,
if you think about it. And the other ones don't have any greenery. You know what I mean? So, no, and I'm with you. I'm not discounting for 1 second what you're saying, but I think it's important for it to be known that this will continue with this greenery and shrubbery. So it's not just a concrete palace going up North Main Street with cars.
Yes.
I
All
think
right.
the Enterprise is older than that.
There's not a lot of greenery around that anyways.
But it looks...
The building looks great, but there was no requirement for, well, there probably was. It's not there, is my point. If we're going to put greenery in, let's make sure that greenery stays.
Well,
You know, this isn't a situation where somebody's buying a three-family and they don't have time to keep it up. People buying these places, building these places, are putting a lot of money into it.
They're building them, and these are going to be rentals or condominiums, mostly rentals, all rental? Okay. So there'll be a building management company that's going to deal with this. That's all I'm kind of getting at. Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
The plans that you submitted tonight were the plans that were submitted with the previous one?
yes, they are, except the architecture. My son, Oliver Orwig, is a registered architect, added one floor to the existing building. So as far as the site plan, there is no changes whatsoever.
Just the height?
But the height of the building went up to 57.6 feet. That's all. That's the only change in the plans.
I'm just surprised that somebody didn't give us a plan of what the top floor is going to look like.
Well, it is here.
Well, it isn't it isn't with us, so that's what I'm saying.
The interior is
What the top floor is going to look like.
going to look like the other floor.
Well,
Yeah, I think all of the floors have the same layout. And the additional floor is this layout. And so floor 2, 3, and 4, and 5 are identical. There's a note somewhere on these plans because I've seen it.
So it is included in the electronic plans, but I don't think in the paper plans. The ones I have on this iPad.
Okay, well, maybe an old set of plans on that one. I'm sure he made those changes. I saw him.
Yeah, I have them, what's here on the iPad? It is included here.
So my question was, is the roof area and the top floor of the proposed new building look identical to what we had with the previous building? That was my question.
No, it's a flat roof where we had a little bit of a slope ceiling around the top, and we're going to put all of the HVAC units up on the top of the flat roof.
Are they hidden?
Yes, they will be hidden, yes.
So there's a significant parapet
There will be, a parapet wall.
around? About how high, just out of curiosity, because it doesn't...
4 feet or,
4 feet, okay. So they're going to be,
yeah.
okay,
You won't see them.
understood.
Will the building on the exterior have any exterior outside of entry lighting? And I think you guys know I'm a big stickler for this, architectural lighting on the building. It's a
Yes, we have-
four-story.
We have extensive lighting all around at the door entries, at the main entrance. We have down lighting all around the building,
From the top down or from where?
from like this level down. So,
Anything up in the upper floors?
no, we didn't see that that the building had to be lit up, that the base floor should be lit up.
I guess
All
we'll
right,
see
any
this
other
on
questions?
site plan review.
Everybody's good? The setback of the building that is being proposed tonight is identical to the one that
It
was
is, yeah.
approved just prior to this?
Yeah, the existing footprint of the building is identical to the plan that you approved before, and every other aspect of the site plan, including the garage basement level.
So all the parking spaces on the site and in the garage is identical to what was in the
Yes, it
last
is.
plan?
102 was on the old plan, and 102 are on this plan. And the same tracking that we've shown on the site plans that we submitted for the fire access is still the same.
Very good. Any other questions from board members? Everybody's good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that has a question on the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I will now open it up for deliberation among the board members.
I think we've come a long way from 3 iterations ago, when I was deeply concerned about traffic and parking. Obviously, 18 more units, that's going to reduce your parking sizes. I mean, the amount of vehicles you're going to be able to park. I still have concerns potentially of people out on North Main Street, but I think, it's a beautiful building. What's on North Main Street now is, what you're seeing up there is despicable, and I hate to use that term, but it is. And I think along with the other project that's going to be right next door, these would work hand in hand together. But just some of my thoughts. I mean,
I would agree. I think this is, we've kind of, again, we've seen this a few times. We've seen some encouraging changes to fit that block. And again, I'll see it on site plan review with planning, so there will still be some extra tweaks on it. I like this project.
Yeah, I agree.
Motion to grant?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Delanus?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
The vote is 4-1. The petition as presented is granted.
Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you,
Thank you.
members of the board. Thank you.
Good night.
The next petition is 2464, 37 Lawn Street, has been withdrawn. That will not be heard this evening. The next petition is 2465. The petition of McDonald's USA LLC, 100 Westminster Street, Suite 1500, Providence, Rhode Island, for a special permit and variance seeking relief for Section 2729, subsection 3G, and Section 2767, subsection 3A, to construct a McDonald's restaurant with drive-through service in a C2 zone located at 69 Belmont Street.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Christine Dieter with the law firm Hinckley Allen on behalf of McDonald's, and with me this evening is...
You get started. Could I ask that gentleman just to shut the door? And when you're speaking at the podium, if you could bring that microphone closer to you, it would help us.
Is that better?
No.
Okay. How's that?
That's better.
All right, great. So again, my name is Christine Dieter on behalf of McDonald's. With me this evening is Eric DeBrule, a civil engineer from Bowler. And as the chair pointed out, we're speaking tonight about McDonald's proposed project for 609 Belmont Street. And essentially what McDonald's proposes to do on this site is construct a new restaurant with drive-through service on a currently underutilized portion of this property. It's currently being used as excess parking, essentially. And this is over near the intersection of Belmont Street and West Street. And so we're here tonight requesting two independent pieces of relief that don't depend on each other. The first is a special use permit. This property is within the C2 zone, and so restaurants with drive-through are permitted, but with a special use permit, and so we're requesting that special use permit for this restaurant. And then the second piece is with respect to having a McDonald's freestanding sign on site. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, the zoning ordinance limits how many freestanding signs you can have on site. This is a large parcel. It's almost 8 acres. And so for a parcel of that size in the shopping district, 3 directory signs are allowed. There are currently 3 directory signs on site, and those are proposed to remain. Now, the zoning ordinance also allows for 2 shopping center identification signs on site, and currently there are none of those. So if you put the directory signs and the shopping center identification signs together, that would give you a total of 5 freestanding signs. We're proposing to put 1 McDonald's freestanding sign on site, essentially as an identification sign. So there would be a total of 4 freestanding signs on site where 5 are allowed. Now, our reading of the ordinance was that there was a little ambiguity as to whether the McDonald's freestanding sign would count, essentially, as a shopping center identification sign, and so that's why we're here asking for the variance for that sign. So, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. DeBrule to give an overview of the project, and then I'll ask him a few questions and make a few closing remarks. And if I may, I would also like to provide the board with a copy of his resume and give him an opportunity to provide a little bit about his background.
You can leave it with the clerk. I don't think it's necessary to give it out right now. We trust he is who he says he is.
And if you don't mind, just
Unless
very
a board member
briefly,
wants it. You want it? Everybody good? Yeah, okay.
I'm going to just briefly give the board a little bit about your experience and your work on this project.
For the record, Eric DeBrule. I work with Bowler Engineering and professional engineer.
Bring your microphone closer.
I've worked on many McDonald's, probably a couple hundred over the course of the past decade, so very familiar with McDonald's brand and what they need to do operationally on the site. I'm sure most are familiar with the site. It's brought along an aerial, but again, as Christina mentioned, it's almost about an 8-acre parcel, so a very large parcel out there today. It's called the West Side Plaza. It's located at 609 Belmont Street. It's bounded by three streets, as we know, Belmont, West, and Torrey. And some of the retail uses in that shopping center is really anchored by, I believe, the Porter Chester Institute. The property itself is very underutilized in terms of the overflow of parking that's there today. As you can see in the area, there's almost no parking in where we're proposing the outlot for the McDonald's. So it's a fully developed lot made of pavement. I'll just quickly point on this area where the McDonald's will be proposed. And again, so what McDonald's is proposing, this wasn't part of your package, but added some color to the existing site plan just to ease of presentation here, but effectively McDonald's is proposing about a 3,700 square foot restaurant with drive-through. It fits very well within the existing shopping center. Effectively, we're reutilizing a lot of the existing parking spines. McDonald's will drop in very nicely and almost as if it were planned decades ago when the original shopping center was built. We're effectively adding some landscape islands and stop signage to control traffic around the McDonald's, but again, it fits in very nicely with how the original shopping center was laid out. All of the 3 existing driveways will be reutilized on the shopping center. The major drive aisles within the shopping center aren't going to be changed, and those major drive aisles, again, are along the southern portion of the building and then along the outside edges. So we're effectively just developing within, again, all of the unutilized parking area at that easterly corner of the property. From a parking perspective, the overall shopping center is compliant with parking. Obviously, it is quite overparked, but we're proposing 353 where 150 required. And then on the McDonald's leased area specifically, if you were just to look at that area, 10 would be required, and we're proposing 19. A major component of this project is the drive-through. Obviously, a quick-serve restaurant is highly dependent on having a drive-through. Nowadays, most of their business does go through that drive-through. What's a little bit unique about the McDonald's, they've been doing it for, again, about over a decade, is that what they call the side-by-side drive-through. Effectively, you're able to have 2 ordering points that then funnels back down to 1 lane. And what that does is to allow them to take the orders in more efficiently at the order point. And to produce the food more quickly so that it's ready. And what that does is reduces wait times, reduces queuing on site. A lot of the issues we see with drive-thrus is they have 1 order point. So if someone's making a very long order at that point, you just can't bypass it. The next customer has to wait, and then you start to get queues behind the order point, is where you don't want that stacking to occur. You want that stacking to occur inside the drive-thru lanes and at the windows. So McDonald's been very successful doing this over the past 10 years, and every new site has that side-by-side drive-through. Another great component of this project that we're able to do is to add roughly 5,000 square feet more of green space on the property. So from a landscape perspective, we really wanted to enhance the intersection of West and Belmont. So we've added significant landscaping and over 100 new plantings in this small leased area. So again, adding new landscaped islands. So again, just really trying to enhance where we can, adding some green to this shopping center from what's in our control from a McDonald's perspective. And the last piece, we are also adding a connection to the right-of-way where one doesn't exist today. There was obviously a major roadway improvement there, so we're going to make sure we're connecting to that sidewalk and to the front door from an accessible standpoint. We are requesting relief from signage, as Christine mentioned, so I'm pointing out that we do have a proposed freestanding sign on site, and that would be located in this location at the corner of Belmont and West. That's about it's a 30-foot high pylon. Again, it's within the allowed dimensional height and area, but it's a 30-foot high pylon, 57 square foot sign, so it's 7.5 square feet by 7.5 square feet, and then an electronic message center at 34 square feet, and that's 4.5 feet by 7.5 feet in dimension. There will be proposed wall signage. As mentioned, it's calculated based on the linear frontage. McDonald's would be allowed to have, I believe, several hundred square feet of wall signage based on all of the different frontages. We're coming in with a much more modest wall sign package of 3 total signs, 1 for each of the frontages. There's a 14 square foot arch logo, another 14 square foot arch logo, and I believe a 28 square foot McDonald's sign. So total of 62 square feet on the wall signage, again, which is, I think, quite modest for what's actually allowed from from a wall sign package perspective. Again, we've submitted fully engineered drawings. We'll be going through the planning board site plan review, so I'll spare you all the technical details, but certainly happy to get into that level as needed if people have questions.
And let me just, if I may, Eric, I want to ask you a couple questions to kind of touch on the specific relief we're looking for here. So thinking first about the special use permit, is the size of the proposed restaurant in keeping with other buildings and restaurants in the area?
Yes. Yeah, there's several other quick-serve restaurants that are very similar sized in the near proximity to the site.
And do those restaurants also have drive-throughs?
Yes, they do.
Okay, and you talked a little bit about the two-lane drive-through. Is that really a major component of how traffic is going to be managed on site with respect to the restaurant?
Yes, yeah. So as mentioned, there's a significant volume or, significant sales goes through the drive-through. Over 70% of their actual customers utilize a drive-through, so it's a very important component to their business. They need to make sure it's run as efficiently as possible, and that's critical to have that side-by-side drive-through for that reason. Great.
And you touched on this a little bit, but in your opinion, will there be sufficient parking remaining on site?
Yes, yeah. The overall center is overparked. Operation will have enough parking for what's proposed.
Were you responsible for the site design here?
Yes.
Okay, and did you design it with the intent to comply with the zoning ordinance?
Yes, yep, absolutely. And we also met with some select staff members early on to get some early feedback before we prepared the overall site plan.
And in your opinion, will the proposed restaurant be in harmony with the surrounding area?
Yes, yeah, I believe so. Again, there's many other retail uses and quick-serve restaurants right on Belmont Street, so it'd be very consistent with the neighborhood.
All right, so that talks about the special use permit. Let's switch gears to the sign variance that we're requesting. So you talked a little bit about what that sign is going to look like. What is it about the property that makes this freestanding sign necessary?
Yeah, so the property itself is quite large. Again, it's almost an 8-acre parcel. So in terms of a quick-serve use, it's a very large parcel. So that's one. Again, it's also bounded by 3 streets, which I think is quite unique. And the intent of the shopping center would be more of a retail strip use as it is. And the actual McDonald's is located, a couple hundred feet from that use. So I think that as well is a significant thing to consider.
So what you're saying is it's really the shape of the property and the existing buildings that we don't have control over on the site that create the need for the freestanding sign.
That's right. Yeah.
And why does McDonald's need its own freestanding sign? Why is that important here?
Sure. Yeah. So any type of quick serve restaurant is highly dependent on what they call pass-by trips. So that use, someone's going on a lunch break, they're passing by to do some errands. They're not out there it's not a destination. It's more of a spontaneous thing. Oh, I need lunch, I need a coffee, and you pull in. So having the freestanding sign to make sure it's advertised properly is one, to make sure they're getting the necessary business. They're making a very big investment in the property. They want to make sure that they get those necessary pass-by trips to go to their business and patronize it, but also from a safety perspective. Without the sign, potential customers would come by and maybe not recognize until they're in front of it, and passing by, they wouldn't have time to make the necessary deceleration, enter a turning lane, and hit the driveway. So having that freestanding sign visible at a reasonable distance down the roads would alert potential customers to make that decision to slow down and hit those turning lanes at a reasonable time.
So would there be a hardship to McDonald's if the sign variance was not granted?
Yeah, absolutely. From a financial perspective, again, they're making a very large investment. They need to make sure they're capturing those pass-by trips. And also it'd be very consistent with some of their, the other quick-serve restaurants that are in near proximity with freestanding signs.
And so based on your experience and given the characteristics of the surrounding area, will the freestanding McDonald's sign create any detriment to the public good?
No, the zoning bylaws allow for a freestanding sign if this was a standalone property. We're dimensionally being compliant with what's allowed by right dimensionally for it. And I think it fits in well with some of the other very proximate uses with similar size signs.
Great, thank you. So, Mr. Chair, we're happy to take any questions from you or the board.
Well, I think the question I have is, would you like to fill out an application to sit on the zoning board on this side over here?
I think you've got the harder job, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, if I could, two questions for you. Typically, when you leave a location, when a McDonald's leaves a location, and I'm imagining that it's for similar reasons through various locations, what do you see filling those empty locations?
So you're talking the existing one?
Right.
You're right. I think like any other property, it would go on the market and.
But typically, what do you see? You've said you've dealt with hundreds. It's a similar situation. What typically fills that old space?
Another similar use, most likely.
Okay. Okay, not a certain brand or?
I wouldn't be
Okay.
aware. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I saw that across the street with Friendly's.
Yeah.
Several restaurants went in, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely suiting, it is a McDonald's, but I didn't know if that's another opportunity for a different business, but that's beside the point. My second question would be, are you able to manipulate the lot? I'm assuming they'd be under agreement with an owner. My question is, if you've been to the site, and I'm sure you have, you see the tire marks, right? You know, late at night, you know, we have an issue with these big lots that, you know, slowly but surely we're trying to fill and make, you know, best use out of, just people peeling out and doing burnouts. Is there any way to funnel the traffic from the intersection at, what is that, Forest Avenue and Belmont? It's to the left of that diagram. I mean, could you add curbing to kind of, yes, from there? And that, you know, that's going to be a major route to the restaurant, I would imagine, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we look at the traffic data, I think about 40%.
So it's significant.
Sure.
Is there any way we can put curbing to kind of guide that so that you're clearly committed to the McDonald's instead of, you know, just a little bit less chaos?
I don't know if that would be in their purview where they don't own the property, but certainly in planning, you could suggest that maybe that parking lot could be lined to give a drive lane from that light at Forest Avenue.
I would like to see with our drivers, the physical barrier works, in my opinion. If that's, and this could be something we bring up in planning, but I'll see you in planning. But that would be something I'd like a little bit more control over traffic flow in such large, undefined parking spaces. Even if it is lined, you know, you can see a mad dash in all different directions unless there's defined roadways within that parking lot. So that would be my question either for tonight or on planning.
Yeah, I think we don't control the overall property, obviously, but we'll certainly bring that up to the owner so he's aware of it.
And if they add other uses, they could certainly take those out, but for now, as it stands, you're going to have still some significant parking lot left.
Yep.
And I think that would, you know, behoove, you know, all parties involved for the chaos that may ensue late night, and that's what we do see.
Well, they are going to put some barriers in the parking lot as part of this restaurant. Right, so they're going to channelize all the traffic that's going into the restaurant.
More from the, you know, as we look at the diagram, more from the right side, right?
Right, so cars that are coming south on West Street can take a right and drive right into the restaurant. If you're going west on Belmont Street and you're approaching West Street, you cannot take a right turn on West Street. So you're going to have to go by the restaurant, go down to the next light that you talked about, take a right, and come back up to the restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
if you were coming north on West Street, you could go through the intersection, take a left, and if you're going west on Belmont, you have the opportunity to take a left to get down. I guess the most difficult one would be cars that are coming from the right to the left. There's no right turn there on West Street, so they're going to have to go by the restaurant and then turn to the parking lot, yeah.
Okay.
All right, good.
So my concern is the traffic coming from West Street into the McDonald's getting congested. Like, have you considered adequate flow just coming through and navigating? Because right now, that doesn't see a lot of traffic. So I'm just thinking like all these people are now, that it's a tight area and you're right there. So it would be nice if it could flow around instead of we're now backing up as people go and then they're trying to turn in. And then if there's a line coming this way, coming from the entrance that he was mentioning, that we're going to see a lot of backup right there at that West Street in Belmont. Like maybe if I know it's a little bit more routing, I'm fine with people coming out, but like to turn right there just seems tight, especially when it gets busy.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely looked at that. We have a traffic consultant on board and can definitely review that in more detail, but I don't share the concerns. I just don't think it's going to be as exaggerated as you might be thinking. Even at peak hours, I mean, we wouldn't anticipate, the shopping center's not going to get swamped and have car stacking. I mean, the drive-through under peak operating conditions, we wouldn't even expect it to back out of the a couple cars past the order points.
I would think with double queuing, the possibility of backing up out to West Street is probably going to be eliminated. If it was a single line to go through the drive-through, you may back up, but with a double.
Yeah, we definitely don't anticipate any type of backup to any of the public streets and really outside of even the leased area under any type of normal conditions. I think under normal operating conditions, again, a couple cars behind the order points. So we feel very comfortable with the operation and traffic circulation.
And let me just add two things, like Eric said earlier.
Closer to the microphone,
Sorry.
please.
As Eric said earlier, a large percentage of McDonald's business is based on pass-by vehicles. So they see the McDonald's or they're intending to go to this site anyway. And so going to the McDonald's becomes part of their plan. So we're not, first of all, anticipating that there will be a lot of new trip generation as a result of the facility. But, to both of your points, I think we're still early in the process here. And so if the special use permit were granted for the drive-through, we will have an opportunity absolutely to work with planning and see if there are, fine-tuning elements of this that we can make to, ensure that any safety concerns are addressed and met.
I have a comment that it appears as though the back of this building will be facing Belmont Street. Is that true?
No, the front of the building is facing Belmont.
So where you go into the restaurant will be on the Belmont Street side?
Those two public doors, one facing the north, and then one on the front.
Okay.
Yep.
I just want to make a comment that I would hate to see what appears to be, in many cases, the back of a building facing the main street. So I'm just making a comment here that we've seen buildings put up where the backyard is in the front yard okay, just keep that in mind. Lighting on this needs to be addressed, and I'm sure they'll do that in planning. But where that's such a busy intersection, you would want to make sure that you're probably not dealing with wall packs and that type of thing. You need downward-facing lighting because you've got a lot of traffic going through this intersection here. And when I went up and looked at it, one of the concerns I had was the interference of this sign with the traffic signals. And it appears as though the sign will be set back far enough so that it should not affect the sight of the traffic signal. So that's good. Keep in mind now, if this is granted, on that pylon sign with the electronic signboard, we're going to put some stipulations on there that cannot change once more than every 10 seconds. It can't be jumping around, animation, I'll tell you, if it is, it becomes a huge distraction to traffic, so keep that in mind. Also, the intensity of that light, as you probably know, during the day, an LED is an intense light, and when it gets dark, it gets toned down. Again, if that light stays intense at night, it will become blinding to drivers, and your sign is going to be in a spot where people are going to see it. Your hours of operation for that sign, if you close, the sign is shut off. I don't know what your hours are, it has nothing to do with us, but just realize that that sign cannot stay on all night if you're not open. And usually it's 11 o'clock till 7, but if you're open till midnight or 1 o'clock, as long as you're open, you keep the sign on. So that was what I was concerned about, the 10 seconds, the intensity, the hours, and the animation. Those are things that we're concerned about, particularly at that very busy intersection.
Yeah, if you'd like us to comment, we can certainly agree to all of those, and you know, I wouldn't imagine that sign is changing even every 10 seconds. Often it's, you know, at mealtime changes, things of that nature, so certainly on
Usually the controller of the sign is in the restaurant, so somebody in the restaurant can control that. But what I'm talking about, whoever puts this sign up should know exactly what I'm talking about. So in your position, I think it's important for you to carry that message forward, that from the zoning board, those are things that we're concerned about.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from the board members? Everybody's good? I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone in the room that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I'll now open it up to deliberation among the board members. Board members, we're going to be voting on two things tonight. One is a special permit to allow the drive-through, which is allowed by special permit, and the second is a variance for that pylon sign.
Well, I think by placing this here, it kind of kills one of our issues as that being a major cut-through to avoid lights to get to the farthest shopping plaza. So for that one reason alone, that's just an added bonus, in my opinion. But the total project, I don't have a problem with. And we'll, again, if approved, we'll see them on site plan review.
I think what we're going to see here is a basic plan that's used in many, many communities, and, you know, as far as the sign, the building, it's all been engineered.
And here's another point. I think it dilutes the traffic from the high school when it lets out. It's a little bit farther down the street. It brings another, you know, it brings that after-school crowd. It thins it a little bit. So inadvertently, you're solving some problems for us.
100%. 100%. I think that, obviously, their description delivery, I think, Mr. Chair, you made it very clear right out of the gate. She had a job offer before the thing finished tonight. So
You have an opening.
So, but no, I think it's a good, you know, that's a parking lot. You have, there's like weeds growing through the cracks out there, and I think it'd be nice to have something right there. Especially now with, you know, I don't know if I'd be as in favor of this before they did over Route 123 Belmont Street, but that's a nice big wide intersection now that they've cleaned up pretty well. So I think this is a good project for that area, and I think, again, to my colleague, Mr. Sweeney's point, I think you're solving other problems that down the road a little bit that I think will help the business, and I think it will help some of the antics that go on. So,
Make a motion to grant?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with a special permit for the drive-through and a variance for the sign, with the stipulations, as I mentioned, on the sign for the intensity, the hours, the animation. I think we're good. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lanus?
Yes.
Chief Nadelli?
yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Petition is granted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members of the board. We appreciate your time.
Good luck.
All right. I am going to recall petition number 2458, Jonathan Javier, 39 South Street, for a variance seeking relief from 2720 to keep a 6-foot fence in an R2 zone located 39 South Street. Is there anyone here for that case? All right. In the past, what we have done, if the case is called and there is no one here to talk about the case and we don't hear anything about the case, we traditionally in the past have denied it. Now, in this case here, there was a situation where the building department cited them for the wrong size fence. It was appealed, it ended up going to court. The judge has ruled that they have to keep the 4-foot fence, is that correct?
Slightly, Mr. Chair. I went to court for a different reason, and in the court case, the court indicated that they had to make the fence comply with all the ordinances. So they didn't go for the fence, they went for other reasons, and it was pointed out by the judge.
Okay, so the fence was part of what was discussed.
Correct.
And the court said basically that they have to conform to the zoning. So here we are tonight. There's no one here on the case.
Can I just ask a question? This woman, yeah. Okay, so you're not here. Okay.
There was 2 cases on South Street. One was a house and this one is a fence.
Right, I'm concerned about the fence.
All right, do you want to speak? Okay, good. All right, so if somebody wants to make a motion.
Motion to approve?
Motion to grant. I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus? No. Chief Nadelli?
No.
Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Ms. Greenberry?
No.
Chair Galligan?
No.
Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
Vote is 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
First of all, you all got a letter from planning relative to 609 Belmont Street, right? That basically says that they have to go back before planning, so we're all good on that. Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight, or are we good?
We're good.
Everything's good? All right, so there's a motion to adjourn. Has it been seconded?
I second.
Motion is made and seconded. We are adjourned.